it's weekender time here on OnTableTop. Oh man, have we been busy the last couple of weeks. Look, we've been building a massive apocalypse table, a big city of destruction. So before we get stuck in today's show, we're going to give you the chance to win some OTT store vouchers. Right, so we've been vlogging this last few weeks. Go and check out the vlogs if you want to see more about it. So what we want you to do is come up with names. We want you to name the entire city, put a little bit of background in about the city, so the name of the city, a little bit of background about the city in the comment below, and you could win 50 quid, a 50 quid voucher for that, if we pick you. We also want you to name 3 buildings. We've got 3 big buildings. We also want you to name those and come up with a little bit of background for those. And you can win a 20 quid voucher for the OTT store. Let's go over to Justin. Justin, you're standing beside the first big building.
Okay, so this building starts from here.
Yes.
And goes all the way down to here.
Wow.
So, what I need you to tell me is what the purpose of this building is, and basically a little bit of background. So, you know, is it a military command post? Is this somewhere where people are orchestrating the battlefront? Is it a administratum data center where people are crunching the numbers in the relentless grind of the 40k universe? So, if you name this one, give us some background, you could win a 20 quid voucher.
Come on, background here. So, it comes in through the front. We've got a big ornamental door that you can pass through into a big area here.
Yep.
Right, so there's, I don't know.
I still have tons to do to this, so there's tons of flooring and stuff to still go in here.
So this is actually part of that, because then there's a floor that connects this. So you could walk from this part of this building through to the other part of the building.
If it hadn't been bombed to buggery.
Yes, that's why it looks all destroyed. And we've got some more destruction to do. I'm just trying to give people, so like there's a wing that sticks out this side, and then there's a wing that sticks out that side, so it's very governmental looking.
Yeah,
very...
see, I don't know, I kind of get that reviewing stand feel just from the tiered steps here. Yeah. But that's up to you guys to tell us what it is. Next one, John, you've got this building.
I have this building, which is kind of cool because it's got a little bit of a bridge that goes down onto this big long sort of colonnade at one end.
Look, it's got epic destroyed space marines on a flipping big tower.
It could be
the Bogatorium.
It could be the Bogatorium. It's probably not. I feel like it's a bit of a church.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a small church because clearly there's something bigger on the other side of it.
Oh, that sounds like an idea.
It feels like this would be one of the main sort of,
wings.
Yeah, I don't go to church. I don't know what the heck they're called.
That's a good idea because you've got this balcony that looks out over the rest of the city, and then you've got this bit and the tower bit. So then maybe we could put some bells in there.
See, I kind of get the Skull of Praetorian vibe from this one, where they actually train commissars.
Yeah. And then you got this walkway. And then you got this walkway that comes along here to this bit that John's been talking about. Come on and get it stuck in here. So John, you're thinking like this is a big cathedral-y part.
It's like where all the pews and the pulpit would be at one end. And the big door, like there might have been doors here at some point, and people come in and pray to whoever they feel is the emperor of the day. Right,
so that's the third building we're looking for a name and some background for, and you could win a 20 quid voucher for that. Jerry! We've put Jerry beside the tallest building. Look at this!
Only thing in this place bigger than me, we have the Oryx Spiratorium. The big otter spire. This is, apart from being a sniper's haven, it's tall. But why is it tall? Is it tall because there's clever things inside? Is it something that the surrounding people can see from miles away and throw their devotion towards? Is it just the way that spaceships can be tethered like an old Zeppelin stand at the top of the Empire State Building? Do they just land at the top and then they just have to walk down all the stairs at a massive spaceport before leaving?
Oh,
these choices are yours.
Yes. It could be anything like that because like here's the front entrance coming off the main sort of avenue, and then here there would probably at some point have been a flat top, so maybe there could have been something.
That's your check-in desks.
Yeah, something flying in and flying out, which would be kind of cool. And then you're into this main structure that just keeps going up and up and up. Why would you want to go that high?
Because it's easier to get on board your Zeppelin starship.
This is the Otara spaceport.
Yeah, why not?
Could be.
It makes sense to me.
Oh, maybe that connects to a spaceship that never lands.
Could be a space bridge.
It just comes along and hovers there. People get on it and they fly away.
They say space elevators are the most sensible thing to do if you're at the equator. For the fastest way to get into space and the easiest way to get in. So maybe this is just the start of something much bigger that's just been sheared off.
Good point. Maybe it just keeps going.
Keeps going. We don't know. Maybe you do.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Right, so to remind you, if you can name the city and come up with some cool background, you could win a 50 quid voucher. If you can name one of the 3 buildings and come up with some cool background, you could win a 20 quid voucher for the OTT store.
Yep.
And also in this episode, we have a MASH unit to win.
If you're not big keen on the grim dark, but instead fancy a bit of American sitcom or Korean War, if you watch the segment with Charlie there's a chance to win the not 4077 MASH. It really is. It is the 4077. So, comment for that as well. So many prizes.
Oh,
Big
right.
money, big prizes. I love it.
We're still building this project, so remember, come on over to the website and the YouTube channel to watch the vlogs and see how we get on. You know, we're going to be moving into painting and stuff very soon, but it's time to get on with the rest of the show. Oh, yes. It's coming on. The city is growing.
I'm kind of getting a little bit of an RSI from all the clipping.
Oh,
You had that already. Let's face it.
Oh, dude.
I can't even pull that up. I can't even pull that up. Yeah, but it has been Clip Central.
Yeah.
The sheer size of the big tower now.
It's a mighty
Yeah.
edifice.
Oh, when you walk into the room and you just peer down, like you'll hit the first tower and then you hit the second tower, which I think are about the same, and then there's just the mighty shard, as I like to call it, sticking up into the sky. Oh, yeah. So if you haven't been watching, check out the vlogs because we've been vlogging it as we've been going. There's about 4 parts, I think, 3 or 4 parts of it up at the minute.
Yeah.
There'll probably be a couple more before we finished.
Yeah,
Getting ready
and
for that
the
August
weekend
9th
is-
date. Whoa!
Yeah, the hobby weekend is fast approaching, so it's, you know, the way every time we do a project, we have that moment of, are we going to make it? We're kind of in that stage right now where it's just frantic build, build, build.
Well, we're almost past the build. We're almost into the frantic paint.
Yeah, and then the frantic weather.
I wouldn't even bother with weather. Just get some kids in to run around the table to be like Linus from Peanuts. Just like kick off dust. They'll be fine.
That's a good idea. All these tiny feet, and we'll put dip on the feet, and they can just run
Oh, they
around.
just scatter all over the place, yeah.
That's it.
How small of a child are you planning to use?
What's Warren doing with his kids? It's manly up here.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Just if we paint them green, it'd be like Godzilla having a
Kaiju
fight.
movie, yeah. I can just imagine Manny Stanner going, roar!
Oh,
Like Dinosaur.
That's where you go.
right. Well, yeah. Remember, get your comments in. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show again.
Yep.
Right, Mr. Jerry.
Yes.
Oh, it's Bolt Action Korea weekend, essentially.
Oh, it is.
Because
It really
pre-orders
is.
have hit the site.
Yeah, you're keen on this, aren't you?
Yes, I am keen on this, and we've actually added it to the store as well. Because for the communities, like constantly sending messages, going, "Oh, are you doing Korea? Are you doing Korea?" And I'm like, "Yes, we are doing Korea." So yes, we actually have the Bolt Action range starting with Korea
Yeah.
coming to the OTT store.
Yeah.
And
And we have SPQR as well.
Yeah, we've SPQR.
Cure.
You know, we're adding games like SPQR,
Yeah.
Conquest,
Yeah.
Bolt Action,
Yeah.
stuff that the community's really into, so we can all enjoy it together, all grow our collections together. We're starting with Korea because it's a great way in
Tap it to my veins!
to Bolt Action if you're not active
Yeah,
player.
if you're not a player already, it's a system that is only or not a system, but an expansion that's only just launching, which is an ideal time to get in. You know, at the start, so to speak. You're not coming along going, "I'm thinking about starting World War II. Half my club already plays it and are coming down with stuff."
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you know somebody, so you want to get into Bolt Action, right? But you know somebody who already plays Bolt Action, if they've got late war stuff, you can go, well, if you've got late war Americans and I pick up the North Korean army here,
Yeah.
we can pretty much just play as is. Just use your late American stuff and I'll use my new, what is it, Korean People's Army?
Yes.
Oh, you can have some epic battles. And if you've got a mate who's got some Russians, just say, here, lend me some T-34s to throw in my army
that works,
here.
Yeah.
This
Plenty of
sounds
T-34s.
eerily familiar to what happened in history, you know. I mean, like, if you want to actually get in, there are some great documentaries on YouTube as well, so you can really dive into the history quickly with this one.
Yeah. So check it out on the store. Pre-orders and stuff are up. But Jerry, you got time to sit down with Charlie.
Myself and Warren sat down to have a look at the upcoming releases for the North Koreans and a little American piece as well.
So I'm joined by Charlie and, of course, Jerry, and we're going to have a little look at Korea.
We are indeed. Yes.
Now, Korea for me is it's not a war that jumps to the top of my list.
No.
However, Lloydie has been pinging me on this about, Warren, here are reasons you need to look at Korea.
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, the war itself was brutal.
Yes.
Right? And it was, but there was no attacker-defender kind of thing. They were attacker-attacker. They both were going at it, and each wanted to invade the north and the south. He tells me there was more ordnance dropped on Korea in 3 years than there was dropped in the entirety of World War II.
Which is just mental.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
But the bit that he got me on it was, he said, the interesting thing about the Korean War, Warren, from a wargamer's perspective, is that everything from your World War II late war is basically transferred into a new theater of operations.
Yes, yeah.
So as soon as he mentioned those things, I was going, do you know, Lloydie, you are totally onto something here.
Yes.
Right? I can see why we want to look at Korea. So who were the factions involved?
So I think this is where it gets really interesting for us, and this is where coming outside of World War II and into Korea, because like I say, it's nice and close, but it's completely different factions.
Yeah.
So we've got the North Koreans supported by the Chinese and other communist parties providing the equipment. I think they had 200 T-34s. So in fact, that's how it started. It started with a roll of 200 T-34s across the border from North Korea into South Korea. So you can see that, in fact, you can tell by the gear as we go through looking at some of these North Korean miniatures that a lot of what they got is Soviet gear that they've brought through. So we're starting with the North Koreans, then we're going to do the Chinese. South Korea is largely supplied by the US and the United Nations, so their equipment's very similar to the US. There's a lot of Marines down there as well, and then the British and the Commonwealth were involved supporting South Korea. It's really interesting because it is completely new nations with some smattering of some existing sort of guys that we know and we're familiar with from Bolt Action.
And even the UN got involved, so countries like the Netherlands, who would be, outside of most people's remit as far as World War II goes, they were involved.
Yes,
Now, Korea was another one of these, again, according to Lloydie, great proxy wars.
Yeah.
Where this is the might of capitalism versus communism in many respects, butting up against each other. So the whole reason, again, I suspect that we even had a Korea is because Patton didn't get his way of going into the Soviet Union and finishing World War II off in his style. I was going to say finish it off properly, but I mean finish it off in his mind anyway.
Indeed.
What is different then about Korea and the Korea game and Korea collecting than for example, late war? What are going to be the differences or the additions?
What's really nice, so from a Bolt Action rules perspective, so if you're used to playing Bolt Action World War II, there's no changes to the rules. You're not looking at a completely different game. It is still just a campaign book for Bolt Action. Bolt Action is not branded as Bolt Action World War II. It's just branded as Bolt Action. It's a tabletop war game originally set in World War II. But what Korea allows us to do is to do something outside of World War II without having to drastically change the rules because they're still using rifles, LMGs. A lot of the late war tanks are the same, with an addition of a few new tanks, which we can go into about future releases once we've looked at the nice pretties that we've got on the table. But the big change is the nations. So the book starts with the North Korea army lists, followed by the South Korea stuff, and then the Chinese army list. It's the Chinese one that's really captured my imagination. Because it's just all guerrilla warfare. You're using things like the forward observer rules, but we're sticking it in units. And I think there's 5 or 6 units for the Chinese that can set up in forward deployment before the game starts. So it just gives you, using the Bolt Action rules, it gives you a different way to play the game by using some of these real sort of unique units that they had. So night invasion squads, guerrilla units, and so on and so forth. Loads of scouts, some Mongolian cavalry for the Chinese. So guys that can fire rifles from horseback, which is just really cool, really cool. And then you go down, you look at the Marines, and we see stuff that we've seen throughout other campaign books, but brought forward into Korea. So dog squads for the Marines, where you're going to take a man and a dog, and you can add a couple of men and a dog. into that unit, and those guys have got the scouts, so they can reveal some of these hidden troops on the boards and so on and so forth. So,
but you have to bring your own meadows.
There you go. Yeah. What was really interesting was doing a bit of research with Lloyd, because I know you guys are going to do a bolt action Korea event.
Yes.
Doing research for the tables and what did the buildings look like? And there's a real mashup of sort of quite oriental looking buildings and then quite sort of European looking, just red brick buildings. But as he mentioned, how devastating it was. Almost everything is leveled.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go from these sort of leveled cities out into craggy hillsides, and as an environment, it wasn't fun. You know, there was no open ground for them to kind of capture and control. It was all ambushes and so on and so forth. So
so it suits the bolt action style of play really well, because we're getting right down tight.
Small platoons, mainly infantry you're going to be playing with. Like I said, there'll be a few sort of tank battles and stuff you can take using the T-34s, some new tanks that we've got coming out for the United Nations and the Commonwealth side of things. But ultimately, it's an infantry war with, as Lloyd said, a lot of artillery and ordnance in there. And we've taken the opportunity to throw some helicopter rules in there.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're not on table, they're sort of off-table assets, but you can take your helicopter in 3 different ways. One is a medical helicopter, one is a reconnaissance helicopter, and I think the other one is actually as a sort of an attack helicopter. The reconnaissance basically does exactly what you'd imagine. It scouts out any hidden positions. The medic one basically just amplifies the ability of your medics, and then obviously the attack one's going to be very similar to your airstrikes and stuff, where it's attacking ground troops.
Especially where Korea was the first time they were deployed, but they weren't deployed as dedicated gunships or dedicated transports like they were in Vietnam. So it's just the skirting the edges of the battlefields at the moment.
This is them still
experimenting
with what the air cav or whatever would turn into. So we have some releases, Charlie.
We do, and the first wave's looking quite chunky. We go right into all the Korean People's Army stuff, which kicks it off. It gives you the other faction, because we've already got some US Marines, we've already got US infantry. Those plastics are as viable as anything else would be for the Korean War. So it was Paul Sawyer said, as long as you're not using the torn sleeves from the Marine box, you should be all right, because it wasn't warm, or it was warm enough in the summer, but some of the iconic images are from the frozen sort of winters.
Quite harsh.
Very harsh. Very harsh.
Will we have a look at the North Koreans first here?
Yes, definitely.
So it's, I'll start with these guys here.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's get them on camera, just so we can see. This is our command squad.
Yes, that's our HQ. So you've got
nice.
First or second lieutenant in there, or the equivalent of.
Yeah.
You could use one of the other models, the spare models, as an NCO. And then you've got a medic and your flag bearer.
Yeah.
See, I'd be looking at that guy with his notepad and pen going, that's a spotter with a map book. That's
what that is. He worked just as well for a forward observer or a spotter.
The minis are just lovely. They are absolutely lovely.
They are beautiful sculpts.
Are they single piece?
All largely single piece metals. I think it's only going to be things like LMGs and stuff where there's maybe a couple of pieces to them.
Nice. So they're robust. As age creeps in, Charlie, I like to keep the models robust because I'm dropping them more and more.
There's something nice about being able to grab a single piece mini, chuck it on a base, get a primer on it, and away you go. You know.
There we go.
Yeah, I love that.
Lovely stuff. So that's our kind of HQ.
Yeah, and because we've got a new way of boxing some of these products up. We're starting to do support boxes. So your support box is essentially your HQ and a couple of support weapons. Yeah. So that's what you've got next.
So would they come in the same box as the HQ? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Right, let's get you a close up of these guys. TC, just look at that.
Yeah, using a version of the Maxim, I believe, Jerry?
It looks like the Maxim. So whenever we were having a nosy through to see what the North Korean army was armed with, God, they were armed with everything.
Yeah.
Up to and including German weapons, some British weapons, and then Chinese knockoff versions of said German and British weapons.
Really?
As well as
Soviet stuff that they were supplied with directly. So, and if people want to start kit bashing, you can lay your hands on spare German and British weapons from the other bolt action ranges. If you want to start doing a bit more of a unique squad, so with some of these are rifle or rifle MG or SMGs, and the SMGs they had less. They had the PPSH, they had the PPS, and then they had like 3 types of the German late war machine gun. They had the Sten, they had the grease gun, the American grease gun. They lit anything they could get their hands on, either original or reproduction. Based on
so there's a ton of scope. Like as a bolt action collector, there's a ton of scope to just dig not only back through the armies that you've already built and pull some of the guys forward, but to dig back through your bits boxes and your leftovers and say, I'm gonna have a go at this.
That's what I love about the bolt action community. There's some great guys out there that know, guys and girls that know how to abuse our plastics in a good way, because most of the plastics that we make have been sculpted so that parts are interchangeable from one frame to another, whether it be American Airborne to American Infantry, Winter Germans to Grenadiers to the SS. Somebody like Andy Zek, when he gets hold of some of the plastics, can just knock some fantastic stuff out by grabbing bits from one kit into another and so on and so forth. So, there's the documented history of a war, but it only shows you what people have told or have grabbed pictures of. Everything that happened off camera or outside of the notebooks and the news stories. Who's to say what equipment they were carrying around? What helmet they grabbed to get a bit of protection because there's a dead UN soldier down next to him there, and that helmet's going to help him a bit more than the soft caps. So it's what bolt action gives people is the chance to just get creative with it. While
so
still,
much scope.
doing that historical thing, as well.
Yeah. What's next, Charlie? What do we have
talked about SMGs. So what we've done is we've got 3 units coming out for the KPA. So you've got an LMG squad.
Well, do you want to pass that over to me then?
I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll pass the SMGs because we've just looked at those.
Okay.
So these are your SMG guys.
Okay. Whoever did the paint job on these, I love you.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
We've got some fantastic studio painters now.
Let's see, we'll get these in here.
Are you planning, because obviously Warlord do an awful lot of individual heads that people can mix and match with.
Yes.
Are they going to be bringing those out for Korea as well, or is this...
I've made the request into the studio because obviously we talked about using the American infantry for the South Korea stuff. It would be nice begin all the on the frame is that there's loads of spare heads and extra heads for the US. It would be nice to see some white metal.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Just adding a set of different sculpted heads for your South Koreans, or likewise for the North Koreans with. You can get your hands on some of the Soviet stuff. Especially when. Because I imagine at some point we will see winter versions of all of these anyway. But if people want to do some sort of great coated troopers, just being able to get some North Korean heads onto the great coats.
The real tough bit is not discriminating when you're sculpting. And arguably you could say, apart from the fact that on every American sprue there's a man with a cigar or a cigarette, which might not be appropriate for the South. It might be appropriate for the South Koreans, it might not. But it's trying to get the balance between doing something that you can look at and identify as South Korean, North Korean, Chinese, but also not be overly stereotypical and characterized to fall foul of being discriminatory. So fingers crossed. I made the request with the studio.
We're backing up Charlie's request. We want some heads.
Some extra heads.
So Charlie, this is the LMG
This
squad?
is the SMG squad.
SMG
so all these guys are armed with SMGs. Anybody familiar with bolt action knows that. Get those guys in close.
Get in combat.
Yeah, they're going to
get a tough fighter when they're in combat.
They will do. They've also got 2 shots per man. Yes, they've got to be close to do it, but they're a pain in the backside. Nobody wants to see these guys coming across the battlefield towards you. So they become a nice target.
Look at that, though. It's just the posing, the sculpting. It's so clean. I just love them.
A prime example that several of them have different styles of weapons.
There's a lot of different SMGs.
There's one of the kneeling guys there at the front has got the drum mag, which is definitely what looks like a Soviet PPSH, so the guy with this waving.
Yeah.
And then some
And
guys
for those of you that like Brother Lloyd,
like to see the butts.
always want to see the butts, because as players, that's what we see most often. There's your rear view now. And they look just as awesome from behind.
Yeah, so that's the SMG squad.
So that's a pack that you buy.
Yeah,
then.
so that's the 10-man and tend to retail at £15 infantry squads, and you could literally pick that, and then let's say the rifle squad.
Yeah.
Which is
I've been looking
chaps
forward
here.
to looking at this. I just love these. The rifles look amazing.
I think there's a couple of assault rifles in there as well, and then your standard LMG.
A light machine gun as well.
Yeah.
Let's get you guys a close look at that. Oh, here we go. Let me lay them out for you, as these guys tell us a little bit about them.
And this is your standard squad, so your standard rifle squad. So mainly rifles in there. I think there's a couple of assault rifles, and then your LMG, because who has a rifle squad without an LMG in it?
There's definitely a big disco.
Just look at
The
it.
back.
Beautiful stuff. And are you guys coming out with paint sets or anything to support these? Or
It's not the intention just yet. Well, I think we're going to do some painting tutorials on what you can use.
Yeah.
Whether you guys are going to do something similar or not, I don't
That'd be
know.
nice. I'm certainly looking at them, and I love the color scheme of these. It looks like it's fairly straightforward to achieve.
If it was
as well.
me and I was going to pick them up, I always look at how can I get them on the table quickly, but still look good.
Yes.
'Cause I like my models to look nice.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be spending months getting them ready to go on the tabletop. So I'm looking at these, thinking, right, okay, skeleton bone.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be painting a skeleton bone spray straight across the whole thing. I'm going to pick the skin out. I'm going to pick the hair out. It looks like their webbing's like a very light green sort of.
Were there
khaki.
uniforms?
Yeah.
Were the uniforms? No, we did a beautiful Soviet army at one point. Now the thing about the Soviet army in World War II was that the uniforms weren't necessarily consistent.
Yeah.
Do we know, either any of you guys or as the community, were the uniforms more consistent for the North Koreans by this stage?
I think because
these are all very nicely consistent.
Yeah.
It was quite a short war as well. So
Yeah.
because it took in the space of sort of 3 years, the equipment, I think the large change in the equipment was from summer gear to winter gear, as Jerry mentioned.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, we have a couple of beautiful paint recipes already from that Soviet scheme that will just
work perfectly
work
for
on
those
us, and
guys.
it's fast and easy to do. So we'll dig them out.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So,
That'd be cool.
So this is the LMG squad.
This is the LMG squad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of my favourite sculpts for the range is in this one.
Yeah.
Which is that guy just there.
This one.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah.
He comes with a little wall to put his LMG on top of, you know? It's just little things like that kind of
One
make
of the
a
few
model
pieces
for
of
me.
wall still left
That's
intact.
it. Yeah.
It's only because he brings it with him everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
If he left it behind in the village, it'd be flat by
It's
now.
like those little foam bricks you get in nurseries. That's what he's carrying around.
Yeah.
It's nice and light.
They just they are really, really nice.
Full of character.
I always have a thing for armies that do have a sense of consistency.
Yeah.
To
Yes,
them,
yeah,
'cause
yeah.
they look like an army.
They
to
look,
me.
of course, yeah. Regimented.
And I've got to say, this guy here just sets it off for me. Having the flag, it's
Yeah.
like, oh come on, yes. So
It is a cool flag.
it's just amazing. It is just amazing. So so you've got a command box set then that has the two teams,
Two support
fighters,
teams, plus
and
your
then these
HQ.
other 3 box sets.
Yes.
That you can
As infantry boxes.
Yes,
so,
infantry boxes.
You can pick and choose what you like if you want an LMG squad. So in the book, in the North Korea army list, you're going to get you've got access to an SMG squad, an LMG squad, and a rifle squad, as well as a few others that those squads could still be used to represent. So you wanted to start a Korean army, you'd go, right, okay, I'm going to have a rifle squad, I'm going to have an LMG squad, and I want my support box. And that's it, you're good to go. So that's your Korean army started. You've just got to get them on the bases, get them painted, and get them on the tabletop.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now there's one other really nice
Yes.
release. Okay, so I'm picking Jerry's brain here. Jerry, what does MASH stand for?
It's the Mobile Army Surgical Hospital.
There you go.
And We happen to
We
have
just
it here.
happen to have
We have a set
a MASH unit.
of unique
This
surgeons and doctors.
These are very unique surgeons and doctors
They are
that
indeed.
you guys want to check out.
Some might recognise them.
Yeah, there might be some familiarity here, but if you check these out, this is absolutely lovely. What a great collectible piece. My favourite of the whole lot. There we go.
Of course, yeah.
It looks a little bit like Houlihan.
Everybody needs a major in their life.
A little bit like Hot Lips.
Yeah.
Yep.
So will we go through and say who some of these look like then?
I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, the little chap with the glasses on. The
little corporal with his.
Yeah.
He's the clerk / bugler.
Radio operator, maybe,
yes.
you know? If you wanted to, yeah.
They're just so nice. It's
And it's just,
are they playable?
it's very much a piece of fun.
It's just a bit of collectibility.
Yes.
Is there any rules or anything? Can you chuck them into a medical unit or something?
By all means, you could use them as a medical unit. There are rules in the book for medics and then medical caravans, like medical vehicles and so on and so forth. The book's full of scenarios. You may find some stuff in there that allows you to, again, reenact some, fairly epic.
I'm just wondering for our event if we could do a MASH camp. That you fight through a MASH camp and just have them as kind of non-player characters in there among it, making a run for it.
It would be interesting.
You could even give them the medic rules. So if anybody's within 6 inches of them, they get to re-roll any wounds. It's just nice as a nice piece of fun. I think it's retailing at £15 as a box set.
It's such a great piece. It's such a great piece.
Cool. It is really cool.
Right, is there anything more we need to explore about Korea at this stage?
So nothing to show, but what I thought I'd do is take a bit of time to talk about what's coming up next.
Nice.
So obviously we've talked about some factions, some nations in that book that we've not looked at so far.
Yes.
We don't like to throw everything out all at once. To give people a chance to get stuck into the North Koreans before we then go on to release the Chinese.
Yeah.
So the Chinese are going to follow around a month after the initial release in August. So in September, you're going to get access to your Chinese PVA squads, which is the People's
Volunteer Army.
There you go.
The Chinese People's Volunteer Army.
Because of course they volunteered to be there.
There is a reason for it. The Chinese army is the PLA.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to go, we're just pushing into Korea against the US and South Korea.
Yeah.
So they redefine them as the PVA.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to do with China, you understand? These people volunteered and went off by themselves. We've nothing to do with these 3 million equipped Chinese.
Fully equipped.
In North Korea. That's not us, you understand? But,
Yeah, so you're going to get a support group very similar to that North Korean one where you're going to get your HQ, including a medic, forward observer, so on and so forth, plus a couple of support weapons, so an LMG and a mortar, I believe. Then we've got an infantry squad and a conscript squad.
Yeah.
So again, the infantry squad you could use as your guerrillas.
Conscripts in a voluntary army.
And that sets us off for the Chinese element. And again, you can use those to represent multiple units within the army. The only difference was the way they were trained. Their equipment is largely the same. Maybe some extra LMGs or SMGs, depending on the style of squad, whether it was an infiltrating squad and so on and so forth. And then we've got some nice shiny stuff for the British and the UN. So something John's going to get really excited about. We're doing the Centurion, the Mark III Centurion.
Nice.
And I've seen it in the resin, and it's a massive tank in comparison to what we're used to from the bolt action stuff. And it looks great. And then we're also doing the M46 pattern for the US, which had some really unique paint schemes on it in the war, where they would paint a tiger. A sort of almost a full tiger sort of front of your head, paws over the track guards, and the idea was it was there to, because it was a sacred animal, it was to try and sort of scare the Koreans It didn't have that effect.
I don't think it
and
did.
It just became a badge of honor for the guys that would just paint the tanks with tigers. And then even the Easy 8, so we're bringing the Easy 8 out to retail for it, the Sherman Easy 8. And that they used to paint the front of that with like a demon's face. So there's real sort of iconic colour schemes and stuff. Moving away from the camo and into, actually getting some insignia and stuff on.
It's the sort of thing that you would normally expect to see on the front of fighters.
Yes.
Massive shark mouths and tiger mouth and all of this, and they're going, just put it on the tank.
Shall we?
Yeah, why not?
We're going to have to work out a way to do it because I could never paint that. Or maybe I could.
The challenge for John.
I was going to say, have you considered this, John? Paint me a tiger on the front.
Put a tiger on that, John.
So no, we're really excited about those. And then there's going to be some British infantry coming out in a summer uniform. So again, because the classic British infantry that we've got is probably the gear had changed going into sort of Korean War. We're going to do the winter British. The summer British. That's giving things away for next year.
You heard it here first, folks.
The summer British, and then the super bazooka that the Brits brought to the Korean War, which is exactly like it sounds. It's a super bazooka. And then one last thing is the Duck amphibious truck, which is just a really cool kit.
I want to see that. I can't wait.
I'm sure we can.
You could visit Dublin. They still use them for the Viking splash tours.
That's right, yes. In Dublin, they do tours
really?
up and down the Liffey. Is it the Liffey?
Yes, the Liffey,
up and down the Liffey.
In a duck.
In a duck,
yeah.
So I can't wait to see that. I really can't.
Yeah, and then one last thing I think we've got to cover, because it's something we've not done before, is the organised play pack for Korea.
Yes.
So likely it's been out for a little while when this video goes out. I know you guys are going to run an event.
We have our event for the 5th of October. So it's if you haven't already, come on over to we'll have in the show notes here details about the event. We may well be full by the time you're watching this.
Yes,
but we are really looking forward to this.
Yeah, lovely.
It's so the organized play packs. Again, we don't know if there's any available by this stage by the time you're watching this, but they were great. It's not necessarily tournament play.
No,
it's just an organized, structured way for us to get together and enjoy Korea. And this is something that you guys are starting to kind of like build into your ethos now, moving forward.
So I think again, when this goes out, we should have had a little segment for the organised play pack, so people can maybe go back and watch that Weekender episode. But the idea is, so there'll be a number of different styles of organised play pack that we'll have released, and the Korean one revolves around the actual Korean campaign book. So again, giving people a reason to get out and play it with some prize support and so on and so forth. There will be some structured tournament packs, as well as the chance of a slow grow league pack and stuff as well as time goes on. So we're excited. It's something very different for Warlord to actually take control of organised play, and it's not meant to say this is what you've got to do. It's just, look, here's some guidelines, and this is a nice way of us supporting the bolt action community. And a great place to start was Korea, because it is something completely new for bolt action, because it's outside of World War II. You can bring some kits that you've already got, so your T-34-85s. In terms of insignia, they didn't really put anything on the tanks in the Korean War, so there might be a red star on the side of a T-34, but largely they were just green. And then straight out onto the
this is going to be the easiest armies ever to paint.
It is, definitely.
Charlie, look, thank you so much for joining us. I'm super stoked for Korea. Lloyd has been bouncing around the studios. He cannot wait for this. John may not even get his hands on that Centurion because Lloyd has a bit of a thing for them too. So, cool. But absolutely, it's been a real pleasure having you in the studio.
My pleasure.
Right, guys, we will go.
One last thing before we finish. Because we did agree that we will give away one MASH unit to you can do the terms and conditions for the competition. We're going to give away one MASH unit, I guess, for doing
comment on this video.
There you go.
Remember to come on over to we're going to give you 2 chances to win, actually, right? So on YouTube, remember to smash that like button, and hit subscribe, and ding the dong. You need to ding the bell because you have to ding the bell because otherwise YouTube just doesn't send you anything. And post a comment. But then also, why not nip on over here to OnTableTop.com, come into the post and pop your comment in there, and that way you get 2 chances, and we're going to be giving away a copy of the MASH set.
There you go.
Fantastic. Thank you for that,
No,
Charlie.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. Charlie, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Let's get on with the show.
Yeah, so some terrific stuff coming there for the North Koreans, and that not at all MASH 4077, but really MASH 4077 unit. Looks fantastic. So I imagine a lot of people will pick that up just to paint if they're fans of the show, or you could probably squeeze some rules in there the similar way they did with Dad's Army. So just make up a few rules, cool. Possibly even Americans defending a 4077 MASH unit.
Oh,
and just have the surgeons running about on the inside.
And you get some of the wee bubbly helicopters off to the side.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, it'd be such cool terrain.
Yeah. This is one of those TV shows I kind of miss, so it's just over the head right now for me.
The funny thing about MASH is, now Sam came in and he said to me the other day, he's like, I was talking about Korea and how it lasted for about 3 years, essentially.
Yeah.
and Sam comes in and goes, that's funny because in MASH they had 11 Christmases.
Yeah.
Because it ran for 11 years.
MASH is the equivalent of a low for the Americans. It lasted beyond the length of the actual war, which is always good, clean family fun. If you can find it, definitely watch it. It's a great show. And try and find the non-American version.
Well, is there a non-American version?
Is there a difference?
Yeah, the American TV show had canned laughter on it, and it ruins it. And when you watch the foreign versions, the ones we've seen over here, it doesn't have the laughter track on the background, and it's a better show for it. Because having coming in every now and again when somebody tells a joke is just annoying. So yeah,
that is something that can really change the tone of a show, though. Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory without a laugh track?
I've never watched The Big Bang Theory. So
it changes the tone of the show completely. So many of the jokes are just flat and horrible.
Wow.
I think most of the jokes are flat and horrible from what I've heard, which is why I don't watch it.
Ben, you into your MASH?
I have never actually seen it. I'm one of these people like Justin that I think it was something that came up and just went when I was younger. Never really saw it. Parents never really watched it either, I don't think. Although they probably have seen it at some point in their lives.
Do you know what's really cool? Is I've got 11 seasons of a TV show for you to watch, Ben.
Yeah.
Do you know what that TV show is? Could it be MASH?
Let me guess. Is it MASH?
But let's make sure it's the international version.
Are you going to tie them up like Clockwork Orange style? Pin the eyes open?
Must watch MASH.
Yeah, if that's what it takes. I imagine after you've watched the first episode, you'll be sucked in anyway. So yeah. I imagine an awful lot of people are going to go back to it.
I was going to say weirdly, and not at all. It's all in keeping with anything we're talking about here. But I have actually been watching the US version of The Office. I didn't think it was actually any good because I've only watched the UK version. I thought it was really good. But then the US one, a lot of people were talking about it online. And so I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. It's all on Amazon Prime. I'll watch it and stuff. And I'm about 3 seasons into it now after 2 evenings and really, really enjoying it. So definitely go and watch that as well. The US version is actually pretty good once you get past the first season, where they're basically aping the UK one. So yeah.
Didn't they do the same with Life on Mars?
Oh, they do the same with everything.
They did do a US one of that, yeah.
Have you ever seen the US dwarf? Red dwarf? Oh my gosh.
No.
What? This is a thing?
I think it was one pilot episode or something.
Made 2 pilots.
Two pilots.
They were both terrible. But I will say, on the other side, there was a version of the Golden Girls done in England called Brighton Bells, and it's terrible.
Brighton Bells.
So let's just move away from TV shows that are being remade on either side of the Atlantic, shall we?
Okay. But just before we move off the Koreans, right? That Korean's People's Army.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what makes it for me? That big Korean flag.
Yes.
The Korean flag, like the North Korean flag, is so colourful and cool.
Yeah.
It's like half of me just wants to do.
It's very similar to
close. Half of me just wants to do the KP. What is it? The Korean People's Army.
Yes.
Koreans People's Army.
KPA.
I'm gonna get it yet. The KPA.
Right, do I need to do this to like a music track? KPA.
Please don't.
So you've heard it here first. Chairman Lloyd says that the People's Korean Army has a wonderful flag, and it's very colourful, and their peoples are wonderful. So
it's very similar to the flag of Lloydistan. Now I think about it, actually.
Have I fallen into the Northern obsession with flags?
We do like our flags.
I don't care what they do. They got a cool flag. I'm going to collect them. Right. Moving on into the news.
Yes.
Who wants to take us into the news? Ben, do you want to take us into the news, mate?
Yeah, sure. So the first bit of news we're going to be looking at this week comes from the guys at Games Workshop. So last weekend they held the Age of Sigmar Open Day over in Nottingham, and they talked about a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming for the Forces of Order, for example, in Age of Sigmar.
Cool.
There's going to be a new battle tome called Free Cities. So for anybody who used to play Empire in War and Fantasy in the old world and wanted to transfer a lot of that stuff over into Age of Sigmar, you're now going to have a full, proper rulebook to follow all of those models and that kind of thing and bring them forward. And this doesn't just include the humans from the Empire. You also get a lot of Duardin, you've got a lot of elves in there as well. So there's a whole sort of melting pot of stuff that they're trying to bring together to give it a proper army list, rather than it just sort of being like something that was tagged onto the end when it comes to building an order army. This does also mean that some miniatures are going to be going the way of the dodo, so some of them are going to sort of vanish from the web store. But this does also mean that hopefully we'll get to see some new miniatures as well. So it'll be very, very cool to see what they do with the Free Cities going forward. You know, the slashes and standards and beautiful colours are all back again now. So it'll be very cool to see what they do with that one.
Do my eyes deceive me, or is that a Bretonian?
Your eyes do deceive you. That's a great swordsman.
Okay.
That is an Empire Great Swordsman.
Okay.
Now would not be an Empire Great Swordsman, but yes, it's very, very cool indeed. As you can see in the back as well, you've got Stormcast Eternals and things. So this is meant to be a battle tome that can be situated by itself, but also can work alongside other ones as well, just like all of the other Grand Alliance books. The next book that's coming up as well that was also announced is the Oryx War Crimes. So previously, the Oryx had two different battle tomes. There was Battle Tomes Iron Jaws, and those Battle Tomes Bone Splitters, which is sort of based around the idea of those big, heavily armored orcs that you would see charging the battle in that big, bright yellow armor, and also the Bone Splitters, who are a little bit more towards the idea of the savage orcs. Well, this War Clans book brings those two armor lists together into one place, which is just good for people who want to, collect everything. And also, they've included a third sort of like set of army lists and builds and that kind of thing, which will allow you to make a combined army of both the Iron Jaws and the Bone Splitters into a great war force. So if you want to put everything together into a crazy sort of mess of orcish mayhem, then you've got a really cool option there as well, which is pretty cool. As well as that, there was some news that for those other lovers of destruction, the Ogres, or Ogres, how you want to say the word, are getting themselves a new Tyrant model, which I thought was very, very cool looking indeed. They're taking a lot of the hints from the previous iterations of the Ogres in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and now there's something a little bit more Age of Sigmar in there as well, which is pretty awesome. And hopefully that means we'll get to see a battle tome and some more stuff for them in the future, which is pretty cool. For those people that are playing sort of larger games that sort of follow the narrative, there was also a teaser video for something which is called The Tithe. Now, this follows on from the story that happened with the Necroquake and all that kind of thing, and this is following another interesting personality within the Great Grand Alliance of Death and what their plan is. So we'll have to wait and see what that one's all about. Skipping forward to one of the games that came out recently as well, a lot of people will know that Warcry Land is. Well, it sort of was pre-orders last weekend and should be coming out this weekend for everybody to go and pick up. So I believe we had some cool stuff about that on the store, and we had an unboxing over on Facebook that we did last week. So if you want to go check that out, we had a look at some of the sprues and that kind of thing as well. Absolutely massive box packed full of stuff. But for that, they're going to be doing a whole bunch of additional sort of terrain sets for that game. We saw one last week where they were looking at one that was based around the old graveyard kits that they did for the old world. This one is called the Shattered Storm Vaults, and it's looking at things sort of like a Sigmar setting. So this is a huge ruined city that was sort of taken over by chaos, and now your warriors can fight over it. Or your other races as well, if you can pick one of those other factions. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming for Age of Sigmar in the near future.
Very good for Tomb Kings with those massive Sphinx-like statues there of the demigods.
Yeah. Well, it's something that'd be quite interesting because obviously this thing with the Tithe is coming out, and kind of the angle they're going down on that with some of the stuff from the trailer could veer towards a little bit more of a Tomb Kings style of army. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do there and what kind of new miniatures they bring out for that. So yeah, very cool.
I see for Warcry at the minute, it all seems to be just the Chaos Warband, so I'm waiting to see what they do to actually bring some of the Forces of Order and Destruction in there as well.
Well, because they have, at launch, I believe they're going to do a whole bunch of different card packs that will allow you to play as a whole bunch of the different races and that kind of thing. So you'll be able to throw in Stormcast Eternals, Dark Elves, and that kind of thing as well, which is pretty cool. And they are going to be doing 2 more Chaos Warbands, I believe, as well. They teased that. So, yeah, loads of pretty cool stuff coming.
Cool. It's cool because, like, they are going to be supporting Warcry as a proper standing product range for a long time to come, and they've got off to a really cracking start. I mean,
well, that
it was only just last weekend You know, the stuff started to hit pre-order and stuff, and now we're seeing already, oh, this is coming and this is coming.
Yeah. I'm really excited for it. I mean, like, it is the Age of Sigmar equivalent to Kill Team. You can play smaller, lighter games with it. So I'm very curious to see how it works.
I am tempted by that.
Are you?
You know, that smaller, lighter, get started sort of mentality.
But they do need to get those other cards out there, because at the moment it's just chaos. So until they appear, it's very big, just like playing, here's your game of 40k with nothing but Space Marines.
Yeah.
I've got 5 factions of Space Marines, but they're all Space Marines. Yeah. Likewise, 5 factions of chaos is still chaos.
You can kind of understand why chaos factions would fight against each other a bit more, though.
Yeah, but if you're not into chaos,
this is a fair point.
It's very niche currently.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I have been hovering over the Stormcast versus the Sylvaneth. Those are the two factions that are grabbing me, and I think something like this would make me, tip over the edge and grab one of the start collecting boxes to fold into Warcry.
What do you think?
I was just going to say something there about the other factions. I did mention last week that they sort of put forward this idea that you would need to buy one box, and that would probably allow you to play whatever you wanted in Stormcry. That's not entirely true, because the models that you need for to actually play the game for some of the other factions, they're not all available just in one box. So you'd either have to buy something like one of the getting started sets and use it to sort of be, this is my army, but it's also my Warcry box.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to try and like pick and choose what you wanted and sprue based, either through eBay or something like that, or just buy multiple boxes of things. So just be aware of that when it comes to playing with some of the other factions. So.
Cool. The terrain side of it's awesome as well.
Yeah. It's one of those boxes they've just nailed the terrain perfectly. Next up, there's more flipping Games Workshop stuff coming back.
Yeah. So at the start of the week, they start to talk a little bit more about some more stuff for 40k. Now, a lot of people will know that they do their Battle Sisters Bulletin every week, where they show us off something new that they've been working on for their new Adepta Sororitas army. This time it was the turn of the Sisters Repentia to be added into the mix in the preview, showing off some of the plastic sculpts they're going to be doing for that set, and I think they look pretty dynamic and pretty awesome, which is very, very cool indeed. For those people that don't know about the Sisters Repentia, they're a selection of Sisters of Battle who have somehow wronged the Order in some way, or not been as devout as they could be, and so they have their head shaved, they are whipped and scarred, given a chainsword, and told to go and cleanse their sins in the blood of the enemy, so that they can once again join the Order properly. Although, of course, this does mean that most of them die in the attempt, which is, fitting for the grim, dark future. But yeah, there's a really cool set of the plastic models that they showed off here in the render forms. Hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot more of their stuff in actual plastic in the near future, painted up as well. That'd be very, very cool indeed. But yeah, it looks really, really cool. Love the dynamism of them. It does seem like all these are going to be kind of like one-piece sculpts that you're going to be able to sort of like slot together, just like a quick build thing,
yeah,
maybe.
It looks like that. The picture we're looking at looks like a sort of a main body and an arm that pops on or something.
You say that, but the one directly above has got the exact same torso and legs, but different arm and head. So I think it's multi-part. Because if you look, you've got the same misery cord daggers on the front thigh on both of them.
But it'll be but that's it. It's going to be like legs and torso together and then pop the other bits in.
Yeah, which is fine, because you can still got the variation in. It's not going to be one box will make 10 and they'll always be the same 10. You can start to tweak.
See, I don't even know if at this stage of the process they would have done the breakdown to actually do the cut-up version of the miniature to then rebuild to this 3D render. This might just be the 3D render.
It might be at this stage. It is obviously still quite early. There's still a long time before Battle Sisters come out. Probably going to be towards the end of the year, start of next year at this point. But yeah, it'll be very cool to see what people do. And a lot of people are getting excited about playing Sisters of Battle again.
I don't know, based on these renders, it looks like it's a good, scroll down a wee bit, it looks like it's a good representation of how models actually go together. Like, look at the seam just on the shoulder and stuff. Maybe that's
how you can sort of see how they build it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see maybe on the leg there's a point where it might come off.
But cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Eviscerators are always fun as well.
Oh, of course. Big two-handed chainswords for the win.
Big-handed. Yeah, actually, these chainsaw swords would be about the length of the one that you've built, Dustin.
Yeah, they're a two-handed. They're called an eviscerator, so they're bigger, heavier, nastier. If you want to see the rules for them, you can check it out in the Space Marine Assault Marines.
What they need to do is bump up how many you can have, because they limited it in the current Sisters of Battle run, which is very annoying. Because I've about 3 times what you can field, because they reduced it from previous editions.
Right.
Yeah, more of those.
You don't have to just do. Can like Sisters of Battle be like a
detachment?
I don't have to field an entire Sisters army.
You could just get a detachment bolted onto your forces.
Why would you do that? That is a full Jez Goodwin sculpted army.
I know.
Why would you sully it by putting it alongside a lesser mortal's army? Not Jez Goodwin sculpted.
But if you wanted to get something on the table, you could get some of these and then...
you could fold them in, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Run them with your Space Marines as it is, and if you're thinking, I'll keep expanding on that, it gets you started.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah. So eventually you will have the purity of a full Jez Goodwin sculpted army.
I've got 5,000 points in them already, mate.
Serious?
I don't need. No. I just need them to release a codex that makes it viable.
Yeah, there's one thing I hope they do a full redesign on. Penitent Engine.
Oh, I don't care.
It was always one that I disliked the sculpt of.
Because I never used it because it was Inquisitor trash. What they do need to do, though, they had a Repressor, which was a Rhino variant that was only available from Forge World and was fantastic. That needs to be made into plastic and come across to the main line.
Gotcha.
So that would be nice.
Lloyd's just sitting there blank-eyed going, I'm hearing English-like words, I'm not sure what they mean.
It's nice, it's big, it's top-heavy. And in current Index Astartes, the Repressor can do stuff that no other tank can do.
Really?
Yeah.
It can repress you.
It's got firing ports and stuff. You just sit in there and fire out. Even Chimeras can't do that now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because they get the last gun array instead.
Yeah.
That's repressive.
It really is. Certainly is family coming up against
There
them.
is one that can do it. There is a Baneblade variant that can do it, where you get 20 guys standing on the back just shooting at you.
Yeah, but that's open-topped.
Yeah, I know.
Presser isn't.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
All the cheese.
The Stormcast.
Wrong game.
No. What was that big thing called? It's like a Baneblade, but it's open top.
It's the one that Warren has. I think.
I thought it was called the Stormcast. Was it not?
No, it's like a Shadow Sword or something.
No, Shadow Sword's big gun. Stormhammer might be. No, Stormhammer's the epic variant they never made.
Scream at us in the comments.
Yeah.
Scream at us.
Someone just sitting there with the codex going, well, actually...
How could you not know this? I will keyboard you to death. Ben, what's next, mate?
So next up, we've got some stuff from the guys over at Fantasy Flight Games. Obviously, they're moving towards Clone Wars as the big new step for Star Wars Legion, but that doesn't mean that they're forgetting everything to do with the original trilogy, because they also introduced 2 new expansions, 2 operative expansions, one for Luke Skywalker and one for Darth Vader. Now, as the name suggests, these are operative expansions, so they're not commanders, they're going to be the leaders of your armies. These guys are going to be sort of like in tune with your commanders and working alongside your troops. And these are versions of these characters that are, in their words, let off the chain. So this is Luke Skywalker when he's full Jedi Master, going to be kicking ass in Return of the Jedi, flipping all over the place, jumping from sandbarges to sandbarges and all kinds of crazy things like that. Killing loads of goons and all that kind of stuff as well, which is very, very cool. And of course, you've got Darth Vader there, who is also portrayed in a very evocative and dynamic way. Going to be force choking his way through the enemy, a little bit like you saw him at the end of Rogue One, sort of let off the chain, slicing dudes up as he goes across the table, which I thought was very, very cool indeed. They're going to be going into a little bit more detail about these in some sort of upcoming articles. They look in depth at all the cards and stuff like that. But it's really awesome to see Luke and Darth Vader here in sort of a different way. So they're going to be fighting on the tabletop in a different manner and stuff, which is very, very cool. So,
where is Obi-Wan? Have they released Obi-Wan yet?
There is this stage. This is Jedi.
There's going to be a Commander Kenobi coming in the Clone Wars starter set, so you'll be able to pick him up, which is very, very cool.
That's not the Obi-Wan I want.
But no, there is no
old man Kenobi.
There is no old man Kenobi.
But you just get like regular Kenobi. Green stuff his beard. Then paint him blue, so he's a Force Ghost.
You don't even need that. You just need like a bit of fabric, paint it brown, and then you just put it on the base. That's him.
There's another use for your contrast paints. Then you could do the ghost version of Kenobi.
In fact, you could just put Vader. You could just peel him off his base, put down the brown rag, stick him back on.
Just have Vader poking it with his toe.
You have a dual miniature then. You have Vader, or you have Obi-Wan.
Why do you want to just destroy my happiness?
That's so good. I'm kind of annoyed their studio painter didn't. That look clearly has.
Let's see bigger look.
Oh, I don't know if we'll get much bigger.
No,
it's not playing ball with me.
Denied.
The little flap at the front of his outfit's fallen down, so that should be a cream white color because that comes from the end of Jedi when he's fighting.
You've got a point. Yeah, it's not like that on the picture.
Because on the picture it's still buttoned up from when he starts fighting, and there it's not showing. This is not actually at the dark side.
this has kind of been done so you can do that little diorama of that final fight between him and Darth Vader and stuff. I think it's pretty cool.
You failed, Your Highness.
My goodness, Jerry.
I'm a Jedi Knight.
We're going to have to get you
like
a
my
keyboard.
father before you.
Could do some keyboard warring.
Don't worry. I
I
think
wonder
I've
if
already
I
mentioned
could
it.
make like a prop that's a keyboard sword.
Yeah, don't worry. They forgot to pin the
Oh, you're right in there.
3 days ago.
Right in there, son.
Been there, done that.
Silly me for even thinking it hadn't been. I'm excited about that. You guys talked about the Clone Wars stuff last week, did you?
Yeah,
we
a
talked
couple of weeks ago.
We
A couple of weeks ago.
talked about it a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Because I'm excited about the Clone Wars stuff.
Like
Other
wonderful
people are like-
Gungan army.
Other people are like, nah, original trilogy for me. But I was looking at they had the Clone Wars stuff and they were showing it off on this desert-like table, similar to the sort of buildings that were in. Is it the third one, Justin, where they've got like a big arena and they put all the Jedi
No,
in
it's
it?
the second one on Geonosis.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all that sort of building, and it basically looks like anthills and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was looking, I go, oh, I'd like a good 8 feet of that.
So that's one where you can throw like 50 Jedi in the middle of the arena
Yeah.
and just kill them to death. It's great.
I have a YouTube channel for you. There's a channel out there, John showed it to me. It's visual effects designers reviewing their best and worst CGI moments.
Seen it?
And they do a Star Wars special.
Seen it,
Oh, you've seen it?
done it,
Okay.
been there, subscribe.
Fair enough.
Also, Kitty Claw ASMR.
Yeah,
She's just great.
they were doing a good one a few weeks ago.
What?
They were doing a good one a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Just talk to the hand.
Yeah. Like this one. Like this one.
Where
I need
they-
the screen like
where
on
they were
blind date.
taking the which is the Scorpion King, right?
Oh, that's so bad.
That's some really dodgy rock,
some ropey stuff there.
like TGI Rock guy, and they were using the deep fake type program
Aye.
to take footage of rock from earlier in the movie
Yeah.
and then superimpose that onto the CGI,
Yeah.
and they were relighting the scenes and stuff, and I was like watching it going, actually that's not bad. If the real movie could be re-released like that, this deep fake thing of being able to do stuff
Remapping, yeah.
is just like woof.
Yeah. Although there was a
They've even started
brilliant...
doing it with 2D images.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're getting it down to the point where you just feed in one image and the machine goes, here we go.
Yeah. Well, there was one I saw they did where it was the pod race.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in it where one of the pod racers crash. I think it's actually Sebulba. And his engine comes off and it hits a rock and the rock blows up. They actually freeze frame it. The frame before and the frame after it hits the rock. The rock explodes before it hits. And they're just sitting there going, ah!
Does it?
It does. That's the detail those boys go into.
Outrageous.
Terrible.
Shame.
Can you
Shocking.
believe that? That ruins the movie for me. Knowing that there's going to be a split frame where that just explodes too early.
There are some folks who actually go out and hunt it down that badly.
So next up is just a little bit of a reminder about something that Simon are doing alongside a company called Explored. So this is going to be showing up a little bit more at Gen Con, which is coming up next week. And this is a new digital component that goes alongside some of the Simon board games. So it's going to be not just a digital app, but also a board, dice, and components, and all kinds of things like that will work together in order to create a system that has the game sort of assist, like an app or a program controlling the game for you, and then you don't have to input anything because whatever you do is read by the dice that are rolled and where they land, and also where you move the miniatures on the tabletop. This also then links into your device's tabletop. So, of course, you've got the one that's going to be running the game, but also everyone's phones or laptops or tablets or whatever around the table at the same time as well. There's very little more that we know about this, at the moment, but hopefully Gen Con's going to show off a little bit more about it. We do know that the first game that's going to carry this sort of system is going to be called Zombicide Las Vegas. And I would assume that a lot of the other Simon games are going to be sort of brought into the fold for this in the future as well. Yeah. So it'd be very interesting to see what this does. It's pretty much that next step above what FFG have done with their apps. It'll be very interesting to see what people think of it at Gen Con and sort of what we see in preview videos following on from this as well. So,
it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they can get the balance right. Because like
you're going to need a lot of tech though to run this game.
Our first real encounter was
tablet, 4 phones.
Yeah, our first real encounter with this sort of stuff was the Exilis stuff.
Yeah, Exilis took it too far.
And the models were nice, but the game was balls.
Well,
because it took it too far.
Well, the problem was the game was doing such heavy duty calculations I mean, I remember we talked to the guys whenever they actually tried to bring back a paperback version of it.
Yeah.
And they said to work out the calculations, you had a book about yay thick.
Yeah, but they should have just made a rule set, because who knows what the calculations are? They should have just went, oh, we'll rewrite a rule set like this. The problem is, you clicked buttons and it did everything and said this is the result, and you would be left with very little to do.
You only had like 6 zones on the tabletop you were playing with, if I remember right.
I'm all up for the technology if we get the balance right. And like you say, it's quite a lot of things to bring to the table.
Yeah. I imagine some people will have friends and they'll bring their own phones, so you won't need phone yourself.
See, I'm just wondering if they'll do a version where you can just get it with 4 phones and a tablet.
No, you'll definitely bring your own phones, otherwise it'll be horrendously expensive. But the problem with everybody turning up with their own phones is, well, my phone's flat.
Yeah.
Well, you can't play then, can you? Because I can't see my phone lasting a session. I don't know how long the game would... Like, maybe it speeds the game up and you can get through it quicker. I don't know.
Because here's what will happen. You've all got your phones out on the table.
Yeah.
The GM does something.
Yeah.
You're sitting with your phone.
You'll check.
You get a little message from FacePage.
Well,
Lloyd, come on, Lloyd.
Oh,
you're on tap. And then meanwhile, while I'm trying to encourage you to look up, somebody else is now checking their email. And all of a sudden the game drags.
No!
Put the phones down.
It's like a millennial nightmare.
Put them in your pocket.
No.
Play the game.
That's a good point. Because I was going to say, oh, you just stick them in flight mode, but then they wouldn't communicate with each other. And then if you're trying to stop individual apps, like, it's practically impossible.
No, I can't even figure,
because I'll sit at home, pestered by this, pestered by that, pestered by this. How do I stop all these things pestering? Stop pestering me tonight!
I have to wonder, does this run through your Wi-Fi or through Bluetooth? Because if it's running through your Wi-Fi and you go to that one friend's house and say they have a crap internet connection, that might drag your game out.
I think Ben has the answer.
If it's anything like what's happened with previous sort of integrated apps like this, you will make sure that you're signed onto the same network, and then you just put in the password and you sort of link together. So through Wi-Fi, yeah. But most people have pretty good Wi-Fi nowadays. I assume if you're going to be buying a digital game of this caliber, that's going to be taking this much money to buy, you're going to be someone who has enough tech to play the game.
Have you been to John's? Is right or is a potato?
Yeah, but I would assume you'd play it at someone else's house. But one of the things with this, like when we've seen the teaser trailer for this, it does look pretty interesting. You're still moving miniatures around on a table. You're still rolling dice. So the dice, when they roll and they come up in 6s, 4, whatever, blah, 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 it counts all the numbers you've rolled. So you've still got that physical aspect to this, which is kind of interesting. So
this app is going to watch us play.
Well, no, because it handles all the stuff in the background, so you don't have to put down things like tokens and work out when things spawn and turn over loads of cards and keep referring to the rulebook and all that kind of thing. So it's going to take a lot of that hassle out of the equation. Whether or not it still feels like you're playing a board game is going to be very different. Maybe it's going to be an entirely new beast, as it were.
Yeah, but it sounds good to me. Like if it does if it can help offload all the bookkeeping and all that sort of stuff, and keep all the fun activities, because like we've talked about Exilis, and it just basically took everything and stuck it behind the screen.
Yeah,
even the battles, like the battles and stuff, happened on the screen, and it said, "This is dead." Yeah. It was just too much, too far. This could be about hopefully the right balance.
House.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll see what happens.
That is the end of the news.
Well,
that is all the news we have for this week. Yeah. I can do that bit where I shuffle paper and I say on to the next thing. So,
well, the next thing is actually I got to sit down with one of the minds behind Project Genesis, which is currently running on Kickstarter.
Right.
So this is essentially a free-form rule set where you begin by creating your own faction, picking like a major race and then giving them minor evolutions to actually tailor them into being dwarves, elves, beastmen, insect people, and then you decide which of like 3 ages you're going to play in, so fantasy, modern, or sci-fi. But I have a good sit down with the fella Gary, so we'll be right back. Gary, welcome to the show, sir. Pleasure to have you here. Very, very good, sir. Right. First question I have to ask is, what is the Genesis project for everybody out there who doesn't know just yet?
Well, the Genesis project, it's a customizable war game where you can create your own factions, and you get to choose your traits and abilities that go with your faction. So it really becomes your own and plays how you want it to. Mm-hmm. With it, you're able to use miniatures that you already own, want to make, or however it is that you want to put your faction together. So it's really a very flexible system. Mm-hmm. that's been in the works for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming the aim of the project then is to get this rule system to market for people to actually start tinkering and playing in the world. Yes.
Yes, it is. We did go through an open beta for about 14 months,
mm-hmm.
and that was worldwide, and we had quite a few people involved in it and downloading our beta rules. But we're now past all of that. We've took all that feedback, and we're now in Kickstarter, ready to get the game out to everybody.
Awesome. Okay, well, now you've said this is a very customizable system, so the obvious question has to be, what are the factions of this world? You know, who are we going to be seeing taking to the battlefield?
Well, we have in the game, we have 5 different domains of life, and those domains are your humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
Your humanoids include everything from giants, dwarves, elves. It's a wide variety, just all within that one domain.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Fae, which are technically they're outside of reality, and those are your angels, demons, elementals, that type. Then we have your Reptilia, which is all your draconics. We got troglodytes, gargoyles, Ophidians, and variants within there.
Mm-hmm.
Your beasts, which basically includes all the animal kingdoms you could ever want, and then finally your insects.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 5 different domains that you can play within, and each one creates their factions a little bit different, all within the same general rules, which is selecting your traits to get your abilities. But the interesting thing too is that you can actually start your faction in one domain and end up taking things from a different one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go cross domain. And an example for that would be some humans that decided that they wanted to, you've got some mages or some somebody that wants to live forever, and so they start taking things they get some forbidden lore,
mm-hmm.
and they start taking traits out of the Fae, out of like the sphere of death.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was one thing. I had a quick look through the rulebook, and I was having a look at faction creation. And from the feel of it, you start off with your main domain, and then you're picking one of the subs, and then you're picking out the different aspects of it. So you're essentially evolving up your faction as you're playing through this, yeah?
Absolutely. And so as you're playing, your primary focus is your primary missions in the game, and those come with primary mission awards.
Mm-hmm.
And those awards give you bonuses, and you're able to create new classes, get new equipment, new technologies,
mm-hmm.
And basically advance your faction in that way. And also along with each game comes progression points,
mm-hmm.
and those are divided out upon how you, when you play the game, your primary mission, stopping your opponent from getting theirs, and a secondary mission. But you get progression points, and that advances you from the beginning of say you're in the first age,
mm-hmm.
which is more fantasy-like, all the way through the different ages into the modern, into the far distant future, to a science fiction setting.
Yeah, this was something I found quite curious as well, was that you had those different ages mixed in there, so it does allow you to actually even just drop in for like a one-shot with this game and say, okay, this week I want my dwarf faction to be rocking out some fantasy fun. Next week, oh man, I found some really cool sci-fi dwarves. Let's see how they would play in the future.
Yeah, and you can create your faction in any of the domains.
Mm-hmm.
Our Kickstarter right now is focusing on the first age. But you'll be able to basically play in any of the ages, create your faction in any of the ages, or literally create them at the beginning of your creation, and create this massive narrative through gameplay.
See, I love games that allow me to do that, to actually let me see my faction and even just my warband grow and change and evolve. New units come in, old units get dropped off just from the progression and the advancement. It's a very, very interesting way to actually have a game run, especially for campaigns.
Yeah, it creates its campaign almost immediately within your. I know that our playtesters have, every time that somebody gets something else and they gain new traits or they create a new class, you'll start seeing everybody else on the other side of the room or in the other hall working on how they're going to counter that. So it's almost like a little arms race within your communities.
Yeah, this is something I actually talk to people about all the time, is that whenever you jump into any game, the miniatures arms race begins, because all of a sudden, oh, my opponent just got some range there. I need something to actually counter that and actually break through that. What am I going to do here? And that's half the fun of wargaming sometimes, is actually just playing that metagame of going, okay, what's the best thing to break down the new thing that's been added to my opponent's forces? Now, actually, I tell you what, let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts of this game as well, because I'm very curious as to how you've ran your combat mechanics, because you say it's a combat simulation style of combat within the game, yeah?
Right, yeah, we have something called the combat situation, and what that is when two forces are about to do combat, whether it's ranged combat or in melee combat. Each side calculates their enhancements, and enhancements are either outnumbering your opponent, having high ground. It could be high strengths. It could be various things. So you total up your enhancements, and your opponent does the same thing. And what that does is the highest of the two has the advantage in the combat. So if I had a plus 2 enhancement and you had a +4, you would have a +2 advantage. And so you would be adding +2 to your dice rolls in the combat.
See, I kind of like that idea that the game goes a little bit film sim at that point and actually looks at the actual situation that people are in and what their abilities and statistics would be versus each other, rather than just going, hard numbers against each other.
Right. Yeah, it makes combat not only dynamic, but it also allows you to, as the battle occurs, things will be changing. You might charge in with some cavalry over here at the same time to try and turn the combat around, or to make sure you finish the opponent quickly, just to get that large combat advantage and deny your opponent the ability to survive it. So it really moves the combat around. It makes it very dynamic and interactive with your opponent.
Well, it's one of those things I find games have to do these days. You need to keep both players involved in the game pretty much at all times. Now, I did very quickly notice there was something about having reactive actions within the game. How does that work?
Well, during your player turn, you're activating a number of squads equal to your command value. Your command value will only range 2 to 5 or 6. It can be higher as well, and that's the number of squads that you're activating during your player turn, and then you alternate to your opponent. Well, when you activate a squad, your opponent can do something called a reactionary activation, and that allows them to immediately respond, whether it's diving for cover, or if you're charging in for them, they may decide that, hey, their best shot at getting you is just to unload on you as you come in. But they have to make that choice, and it's a hard choice because you only get one action per game round. And if you do a reactionary, you get a -1 to your characteristics that are your skills, basically, for what you're doing.
Yeah, see, I'd like the idea that I can react to something, because it's something I used to hate in war games. I would actually be standing at, say, the end of an alleyway, and some big monstrous creature is charging at me. And my models on the tabletop, they just stand and stare at it while it comes in to stab me to death. And that's just, no bueno, I don't like this. So being able to have that option, yes, I'm taking a hit for it, but if I know I'm going to get mullered in combat, being able to actually just unload all my firepower for one last hurrah, definitely something I want to do.
And sometimes that's the best thing. That's the best thing to do. It's funny because we've been play testing all the ages for quite a while, and you've got something big really coming in at you, and you just unload and put your weapon on rapid fire and unload as much as you can into them.
Yeah.
Doesn't work, you're going to get slaughtered.
True, but if it doesn't work and you were going to get slaughtered anyway, it was worth the shot.
you do the best that you can right then and there.
Yep, exactly. Now, I did have a look as well. The way the turn breaks down, one of the first things that happens in the turn is events, I believe. So what are those in the game?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
For the actual turn breakdown, we're actually starting to move into that a little bit, which is something I want to talk to you, the different phases of the turn. So the first one I saw was the events. What are those within the game?
Events are oftentimes things that are lingering from the previous round. and it could be just about anything. Either it could be diseases or things like that are still sticking around from the previous round. Okay. It could be spell effects. There are some other game effects as well that are kind of lingering. Most of the events are board wide, and then towards the end we have an effects phase, which kind of determines whether or not things are taking effect.
I see. Okay, so we move from the effects and then into what stage?
Once we get to the effects, players are activating, and basically you're alternating player turns back and forth.
Okay, so as we discussed with the command ability of your commanders.
Right. No, there is initiative as well each game round. Too.
Okay.
And whoever has the initiative obviously goes first. Going first is determined basically by whoever ended their player turns first in the last round. So if you finished all your activations, you now have initiative for that game round, and your opponent can challenge that. And if they challenge it and succeed, then obviously they get to go first. If they do not, then they lose a command value lose one command value since they were trying to jump on it.
Again, I'm liking this risk reward system you're building in here. So I mean, like, I can react, but I take a little hit. I could try and challenge for initiative, but if I mess it up, I'm going to take another little hit. But it's not game-breaking hits.
Yeah, it's always a discussion. You'll see players going, do I need to get in there? Is it important? How important is it?
Yeah.
And they're looking at their command value, because it's your command value that's on the table that allows you to do that. And if you've got a rockin' commander, he's also going to be a target. So if you lose him, your command value goes down.
Oof.
So it really plays on that during the game. Your commanders have a big role, depending upon how you build your army. A lot of our play testers, there's a few of them that's really what they focus on as command, and there's others that say, well, I just don't care. I'm going to just get you.
So some will just build a beat stick horde to actually charge at you, whereas others are going to go, no, let's be a little more surgical with this.
Yes, and it comes down to how you build your armies and the tactics on the field. I mean, it's a goal of ours to always have the players interacting with each other with every game round through every part of the game.
Well, are you aiming this to be very much a narrative piece where you and your opponent are telling a story on the tabletop, or are you going to go for a little bit more of a hard-edged, competitive side to things as well?
We focus on the narrative and telling your story as you build your faction. But there are aspects where you'll be able to take the games to the tournaments and gain benefits through, and play through. So, but for the most part, the game is designed really around your gaming communities, your game store or your gaming club or group, so that you guys can play the game and kind of and you create your own. Basically, it's your own world within the Genesis project that you're playing within. And even if people just pop into the game, because of the way the factions are built, they're able to come in halfway through and not be behind. So they can just jump in, create their faction, and start playing.
Yeah, this is actually leading me to another question. So let's say that had happened. Let's say a couple of my buddies down at the club, they've started playing, they've got a few games under their belt, they're advancing. How do I then jump in and build my faction to be on a level footing with them?
So you'll build your faction, and the one thing that's the way the game works is, when you have every time you select a trait for your faction or for a separate class within your faction, that trait has a point cost to it. And so what that does is it raises the point value for one for your models, and this is a per model. So you might have 2 or 3 traits on this model, but that's all going to make a bigger point cost for you. So your opponent can come in and create their faction. And we've had people almost all the way through the first stage come in, and a brand new player comes in just learning the game, and they can be right in there competitive. Obviously with learning the rules and a little bit, but the army itself is competitive because your point values are less, and you're still able to build enough classes that you're wide enough to deal with the situations that you encounter.
Well, it's quite the interesting scaling then to actually work out the mathematics on that, to actually say, okay, so we're adding this, and this to this unit. That's now pretty expensive. Someone new's jumping in. They're not as advanced, but they're going to have more guys, and they're still going to be able to actually have a go at it. That's really interesting to work out the calculations on that.
It is, and we've been, like I said, we've been working on this project for about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And that was it was vital from the get-go that I didn't want a campaign going and then someone new not being able to jump in.
Yeah,
it was very vital to us that was important, because to me that's so many people get left out when that happens, and you just want to play some games. You don't want to sit there and watch.
Yeah. Well, we actually had a couple of campaigns running here in the studio for a good while back now, but I do remember we had folks turning up and going, "Oh, could I jump in with you guys?" And our GM was sitting there going, "Well, I kind of need to figure out, okay, let's see what would happen if we'll basically flub your first 2-3 weeks of what would have happened to you to give you what you would have now, and we'll try and balance it out." And it actually made him have a bit of a headache. So actually having a game system where that doesn't happen, I'm well on board for.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is this: if somebody's been a group of people have been playing for a year and they've advanced from the first age to the second age, you can just create your faction in the second age. You can jump right in for even long-term campaigns.
Well, there's a question then. So let's say let's go crazy, first age versus third age. Would that be something you could play against each other, or would you rather say no, maybe avoid that?
Well, we've done a lot of first age versus second age, and we've done some third age to first age within our in-house studio. Point wise, it will work out, and you can in fact do it. In fact, the player who's not the advanced one is going to even get some nice bonuses for progression towards the end. So there are bonuses for even doing that. Not to mention that there is a sphere of time that allows you to kind of manipulate a little bit of that as well.
I see.
So there's it is fun to do that, and there's also a certain amount of how far are they into that age. So some people at first ask, well, if someone just gets into the second age, suddenly they have tanks. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more gradual than that when someone comes in, because once you get to that next age, you are now able to take traits within there, and you're just starting to get involved in that. So it does even take a bit for them to get fully immersed into that second age.
Well,
so if someone made a second age faction right away, they might even have access to better technologies. I would.
But I'm assuming with the way you've pointed it out, they would then have quite more of a condensed force. So yeah, my buddy might be running at me with bows, arrows, cavalry. I might have just a small group of guys with guns. Yes, I can shoot them down, but there might be enough there just to come and overrun me.
Absolutely, and that's what we've seen happen. Is the second age players getting a little bit overzealous and overconfident because, hey, I'm in the second age, and the first age people coming in and just stomping them.
I do like that idea, because I like the idea of seeing factions advance, because that's like true history. Because if you think during World War I, World War II, you had the true arms races on the go. So, all of a sudden the Germans have machine guns. Well, crap, we need to get those too. Can we still fight them even though they have machine guns? Yeah, kinda, but we need more guys.
Yeah, and we need to work on have maybe work our tactics a little bit better. Or
yeah. But
if we've got giants, throw them in first.
But that also gives you very interesting gameplay options as well, because as you're playing through, tactically, how I would actually deal with someone who has lots of ranged weapons versus me, who's very much heavily melee, that could really change how I'm going to actually play the game. Because if it's just melee versus melee, I'm going to try and hit the flanks, work my way around. Whereas when my opponent then has ranged weapons and he's got those on his flanks, I then have to look: do I work my way up through cover? What's the acceptable losses for a charge over no man's land to actually get in and start doing damage?
Right.
So it's a very, very interesting sort of balancing point on those tactics.
And the other thing too, Justin, is when you're playing the Genesis project, the very first thing that you do when you get to the table is your opponent, and that way you can act. Oh, these guys are giants. These guys have tanks. These guys are this, and you get your mission and the battlefield before you make your list, and that allows you might not know what they're going to bring to the table, but you at least have an idea that these guys are reptilia with lots of dinosaurs. So So you have a concept of what they could bring to the table, and then you are building your list to best deal with your opponent and accomplish your mission at hand.
Yeah, although that's also going to lead into a really nice feeling of the fog of war, because yes, I might know your faction, but depending on which traits you've chosen, that army could play very, very differently, and that kind of leaves you. You're not just going, oh, this week I'm playing my buddy, he's got nothing but reptilians. I know how those work. It's all right. I know exactly what I'm going to take to beat that. And then your buddy suddenly turns up with this reptilian faction. You're going, wait, they can do that now? Okay, I need to kind of be on the hop here. So it's really nice that way.
Yeah, in the game, this is not a list design game per se, because you're building your faction. I know in some games that I play, because I play lots of different games, I work on my list, and I might be working on one list for like 3 months. Here you've got to be a lot more flexible than that, and be geared towards your mission, and be ready to jump in on that against whatever it is that you're facing.
Yeah, but that's good as well, because it means that you're focusing less on just murdering your opponent and actually completing your objectives and stuff to actually gain the bonuses for it. Killing stuff's fun too.
Yes, you got to be careful. You've got to focus on that, whatever your mission is, because if you get caught up just going out to slaughter everybody, you will fail.
Well, I have played a few games over the years where just the red mist descends and it's just like, no, you're all gonna die. And then of course I lose the game.
And that happens. The interesting thing in the way that our game system works with missions is that I have my primary mission. It's probably different than your primary mission. And so we're both focused on different missions. But after the second round of gameplay, we roll for a shared secondary mission. And it kind of changes the dynamic of the battlefield on what's going on. So as they meet each other, now something else becomes also important. Your primary mission is still your focus, but
Well, I have to say, Gary, this game sounds very, very interesting. You've got me curious, and you're kind of making me want to actually go hunting through my attic to actually see what bits and pieces of armies that I maybe haven't looked at for years I could pull out and say, I haven't played you in years. Let's try you with this new system.
And you can design. And really, we spent a lot of time researching miniatures, what's available, what's out there, what has been out there, to really make sure that we're able to encompass. I mean, it would be pretty hard, I think, to find something that you wouldn't be able to create with the Genesis project.
Yeah, and again, that's nice as well, because you can just grab this rule system and you're not instantly going, oh bugger, I need to grab an entirely new force, get it built and painted. I could take something I already have and refactor it and tune it into the world. And if it's an army I've played for years, maybe I've already got a bit of a narrative behind it, and I can sort of try and build that to work within the Genesis world.
Yeah, and that's exactly what a lot of our play testers have done over time. So,
well, Gary, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I am very curious about this game, and I highly recommend everybody goes and actually checks out the Kickstarter. Is there any other points you would like to cover before we move on here?
I think we covered a majority of them. Just make sure you come check us out, and if you like what you see, make sure you share it with your friends.
Yeah, cool. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Tell you what, drop your comments down below. Tell us what you think of the Genesis project. Myself and Gary will move on here. We'll see you again another time. Okay, this is one I actually find quite interesting, because you can customize so much, right down to just adjusting and tweaking the stats. So you could have two races that look identical, but they play very differently because of the different evolutions you've taken through your gameplay. And I like the idea of the campaign system where you're evolving and advancing your society.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll see how the Kickstarter gets on.
Yeah, well, the Kickstarter is currently still running, I believe. They are funded.
We are funded, yeah.
And some of the artwork's pretty damn nice in this. And it does have a full world background too.
It's split into 3 different ages.
Yes. And you can evolve through those ages as you play your games.
Yeah, because I think the first one's focusing in slightly on that sort of age of fantasy thing, that myth and legend sort of aspect of things, and then it goes forward from there, doesn't it? Which is kind of cool.
So then it goes to modern, and then it goes to sci-fi. The cool thing is you could actually have a first age army fighting a second age army.
Right.
So your species might have just evolved enough to start getting guns and stuff.
To get hammered by your opponents.
No, because the curve on the points balancing means you'll only have a few guys versus my horde of guys.
Oh, cool. This sounds a bit like Megalomania.
Megalomania.
Sounds a bit like colonial wars.
Megalomania.
I might go into the Belgian Congo and we're going to win because we've got guns.
Megalomania was a game on the Amiga, right? So, like when I was younger, the Amiga was like my go-to gaming platform, right? And the thing was, there was 4 factions, right? And you all started as cavemen.
Yeah.
And then, so you'd be throwing rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
So you could build up an army of cavemen and go and attack someone else. But maybe they've developed further. Yeah. So you'd charge them with your cavemen, only to find out that they've got machine guns and airplanes.
Right.
Or maybe you've sat and turtled while they've been fighting with each other. So then you go in with spaceships while they've still got,
tanks.
You go with spaceships, tanks, whatever, while they've still got like biplanes and knights and stuff like that. And eventually it was a race to see who could go out to like, and you could nuke people. It was awesome.
See, that's the way to deal with it. When the insect people come out with their stone knives, drop a nuke on them. Welcome to the third age. Go back to the first age.
And there was 4 factions, right? And then they'd pop up. The head would pop up and go, "Do you want to be on my team? We'll beat the rest," and all this. And you could say yes or no. So you could team up, and then you could nuke your mate. So the idea was who could you had to develop until you can get into this nuclear-proof black shell. And then that was it. You were the winner because everyone else got nuked while you were in stasis.
Good.
Winner.
Best way to do it.
That sounds a bit like that. I like that idea of being able to interact
this
with.
game has had about 6 years of development on it to get the balance right between the different ages. But they're being very careful about it.
Yeah,
that's the main problem I can see with it. Because when you take a game that's developed for a certain period or style of warfare, and then you try and apply it to another genre or age, it generally falls over. It won't work. So Saga, for example, is Dark Age. It would be great at Dark Age. Pushing into pike and shot, tricky but doable. Pushing into full repeating guns, no, won't work. Likewise, if you take things like
games, you don't instantly get the best guns. You'll get crappy guns. So they're maybe a bit better than the bows and arrows you're firing. But they're not just instantly everybody dies.
Yeah, but if I'm playing the third age army against your first age army,
that would be a bit lunatic, but you could.
But that's what you're saying, it's split into 3 different ages. How do you play one age against the other unless there's balance in there? Otherwise,
that's
it's
what
3
they've been engineering.
Yeah.
They have been engineering as much balance as possible into the game.
Because that's going to be the crux, how well that works.
Yeah.
Because if it works really well for melee fantasy, it's going to be fairly bad for guns. Or if the guns work really well, it's going to be terrible for anybody who's playing that style of fantasy / historic melee combat.
Yeah. Well, there's only one way to find out. We'd have to play a game.
I don't care. I'd love to mow down your caveman with a machine gun.
I'm thinking about it right now, and it's delightful.
See, I'm just thinking of dwarves with machine guns seeing waves of insects rolling at them.
We could eat them.
Just drop a nuke on them, yeah.
We could eat
not
those
again.
insects.
Oh no. Oh no. Let's not do that.
Even Ben enjoyed watching us eat insects, for goodness sakes.
I will admit, people were looking at me funny whenever I was on the train home and I watched that episode, giggling my ass off.
Yeah.
Because I watched it back and it was just like me laughing my head off and people were going, the hell's going on with him?
If you haven't seen it, we have a Sunday show where we eat lots and lots of weird things. It's good fun.
Ready, steady, puke.
Right, speaking of Kickstarters, there's some other exciting Kickstarters we want to talk about.
Yes.
Ben, I'll come to you first, mate. What's coming up?
Yeah, sure. So the first one we're going to be looking at, well, the second one, I suppose, is from Printable Scenery, who do a whole bunch of really cool 3D printable STL files that you take away and you print at home or in Fab Labs or wherever you want to do it. And this new one is called Clawhaven and the Goblin Grotto. So this is 2 new sets of 3D terrain that you can print for yourself at home.
So nice.
The first of these is for the Clawhaven Villager set, and this involves, at its base level anyway, a townhouse, cottage, homestead, grand hostel, cabin, tavern, chalet, watchtower, and some schist stone fences as well. This is just a sort of overworld area, so maybe you're going to be doing a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, or you're going to be some skirmish gaming, because everyone's getting into skirmish gaming right now. This would be a perfect place for you to be running around in your town, fighting for control of it, or maybe saving it from monsters and all kinds of things like that. This then develops into the Goblin Grotto set, which takes things underground, because maybe there is a goblin fortress sort of beneath the surface that is sort of springing up monsters all over the base trying to
We're still looking at the taverns and stuff here. We'll get to the goblins now. We've just got to the parts. All the little parts and things.
Yeah, because so there is still quite a lot of stuff in that Clawhaven Kickstarter. You can see a whole bunch of bits and pieces there. It all sort of fits together using, I believe it's called the open lock system.
Yeah.
So it's one that's been perfected by other companies as well. So it all sort of like slots together really, really easily and nicely.
This is weird. How can you have a stone fence?
I think they mean wall.
Yeah, it must be a wall.
There's a translation issue there, I think.
Yeah,
these guys are Australian.
It's what you would have seen if you were.
Nobody in Australia speaks English.
I love the design of these.
Yeah.
Like I've had the good fortune to print out some of the.
Let me throw a correction out there. I can't remember if it's Australian or New Zealand.
All right.
So I need to put that out there. That little caveat.
None of the Anzacs can speak English.
None of the Anzacs. That's it. They're Anzacs. Yeah. There we go.
Very cool designs, and I definitely want to give some of this Fantasy Village stuff a try.
I think the Fantasy Village is looking flipping amazing.
Well, I mean, like I've seen how good they are designing, and even an amateur like me can get good printed results.
I still even the stone wall. The stone. Stone wall.
There you go. It's all right.
That's no better. Hi, Germany.
I know. That's why I said it. Sorry. The shy stone fences. Cause scroll back up a minute. Cause like sounds boring, but the whole walls and stuff. Like anytime you want to sit down and do a game, walls are always a pain in the ass.
Well, you've seen these already.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done something similar.
Because those are the ones we
very similar
for
to
Flames of War boot camp.
Yes.
Very similar.
Because there's the curves.
They must be similar to that because they were bloody handy when we had them.
Yeah, they were really good. And once you get those pins in there for the open lock system, they don't move much.
Really nice.
I'm super happy with those.
The overall
the buildings have my attention.
Let's go back up to like we're gonna go back up then to like a big open scenery shot. Or we could just do this. This is cool.
All right, the Grand Hotel I want to do.
Hostel.
Oh, Grand Hostel. Words.
Yeah, scroll down a bit. That's my favourite there, the tavern.
Yeah, it's got a nice smoking area out the back. I like that.
That's pretty much what that is. The tavern's cool. The chalet's cool.
Row of chalets in case you want to do Heidi High.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be complete
the watchtower as well. Yeah.
The watchtower is cool. Yeah. Like that watchtower you could use for quite a lot of things.
Yeah.
You could probably even maybe squeeze that into some sort of. Could you squeeze that into Roman stuff?
Yes.
That watchtower. Because I was looking at thinking
it's very similar to Lime's watchtowers.
Which would be really cool. What's the top there?
Top here.
Yeah, keep going up. So we start Townhouse.
Townhouse.
Yeah, now I'm curious about it because it's got some big overhangs for those joists coming out.
Yeah, but
how those work.
It'll be like probably printed the other way around and then stuck on.
It looks as if the wall segments and everything are separate. If we look at the components, and they'll print flat on their back.
Wow.
Yes.
Good idea. Components.
And then you just sort of build it all together once you're done with that. So kind of cuts down on you just ruining one massive sculpt and stuff. It's pretty good.
And then one habit I have, you see 4 overhangs like that. I'll actually turn the component and print it upside down.
How many overhangs? 4 overhangs.
What? I missed that one.
Go ahead.
Go on, Justin.
For those, I flip the component upside down. Yeah. That way, you've got the big connection, and it's getting narrower as it goes up.
That's it.
Which works a lot better.
Right. Let's have a look at these goblins. These goblin caverns because they look flipping amazing too. Let me see these.
Yeah. So the Goblin Grotto set at its core. Remember, there's a whole bunch of stretch goals because these guys have absolutely bust through loads of things. The core set contains the Moon Effigy, a Goblin Cavern floor set, which is pretty cool. You've got the cavern walls and the tunnels, the bridge, the rickety bridges, and also the Gloom Creeper as well. So this is a big thing if you're going to be playing things like the moon. I can't remember what they're called now. Damn it! The new goblins for Age of Sigmar. Like,
Gloom Spike Gits.
The Gloom Spike Gits, those are the ones. Yeah, if you're playing those and you've got a really cool sort of terrain set here, you have to build up that. Or if you're just going to be doing some sort of like standard dungeon diving, you've got some really cool bits and pieces for you using that sense as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, again, all use of the open lock system. So it all comes in parts that you build together however you want to create some interesting terrain sets as well. And this one's a little bit more open, obviously, because it's not for building buildings, it's for building sort of larger sort of landscapes in the ground.
We're looking at the Gloom Creeper at the minute, Ben.
Yeah, he just wants to cuddle.
It's amazing. I thought it looked cute too. Cute and scary at the same time. It's awesome.
He's even got a crown, so I'm pretty sure
he's in charge.
Some sort of royalty.
Scroll back up a bit because I was looking at this and we'd only just I'd mentioned Clone Wars stuff from Fantasy Flight. I was looking at this stuff further up and I was thinking if you do this in deserty colours, you'd have the guts of a good set of terrain and stuff, you could throw down on a table pretty quick.
Is there Padme and Anakin running around?
Yeah, exactly.
Any of those floors that are blank that you could just do like a massive cavern?
Those?
These floors.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Don't know how well they interconnect. I imagine there's some form of interconnectivity.
Yeah.
Well, it looks as if that full set just pushes together as it sits there.
I'm thinking you could print out sections of that, sections of the wall bits, and then you could have like set on modular bits rather than trying to build an entire
thing.
Like this, rather than trying to build that, which is cool, you could build separate bits, throw them down on the gaming table, and it would give you some really cool looking time for Clone Wars would be really cool.
Yeah.
In a deserty form.
Yeah, we see the nice thing about this is you're picking up the STL file, so as soon as you have the set, you can just do as many of these as you want. There's no, oh, I only got one house from that Kickstarter. No, I've got infinite houses so long as I have the material to run it out.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like the idea of building that and going dungeon delving.
Big black mat, and then, anything that is black is a wall.
Yeah.
So you just have to worry about your corridors and the like. You don't need to worry about the infill.
And black as a wall.
I'm going to say down below the sort of initial pledges, you'll also see the massive amounts of free stretch goals they've unlocked as well. So these are applicable to either the stuff for Clawhaven or for Goblin Grotto, or if you've got in for both, then you can get obviously both sets as well, which is obviously pretty cool. So everything that's labelled as such is where that sort of fits into each of the individual pledges. But as you can see, they've done a whole bunch of awesome stuff. There's some churches, there's a cool tower. The thing that was really impressive to me, and it was one that was unlocked, I think it was earlier in the week, was a massive library for Clawhaven, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, and it could be a really cool setting for like a wizard's duel or something, because you're sort of racing them around the library, books flying everywhere and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, there is absolutely amazing amount of stuff here that you can pick up. Loads of really cool bits of set dressing as well, furniture and things, which is pretty cool. So these guys have really, really gone to town on what they're sort of offering as part of this Kickstarter project.
That's really cool.
Kick.
Flipping guillotines and Iron Maidens.
Yeah. And so many shrooms that we'd have to get oxygen for Warren.
We just got the library, yeah. That's so cool.
I think it's got a cutaway there.
Yeah.
Oh, please tell me it is that full detail inside.
It is that detail inside.
Yes.
Oh man.
Me likey.
Continued. Is this all unlocked? This is amazing.
All unlocked. Yeah, they've unlocked loads and loads of stuff. And as we said before, we're looking at the other stuff. This is all done in segments, so you're not like looking at that library and going, "Oh my god, how do I print that massive structure?" It's all done as individual parts that you build together and stuff. So
that is something I've discovered, is just how to actually efficiently use your bed size whenever you're 3D printing to fill it to max out the amount you can get from one run of printing without having to reset.
That's a good point. It is important how you use your bed.
Yes,
I think so.
Get your minds out of the gutter. Move on.
Mine's on no gutter. I'm thinking about the next Kickstarter.
All right, what we got?
So the next Kickstarter that we're going to be looking at is from the guys over at CMON, and this is a new cooperative adventure board game that is based on the very, very well-loved roleplay setting of Trudvang from Riot Minds. And instead of it being called Chronicles, which is the role-playing game, this one is called Trudvang Legends, and it's a game for 1 to 4 players, where you take on the role of heroic adventurers in a Norse-inspired setting, getting stuck into an adventure that goes across multiple sessions, multiple chapters, as you go out and make a name for yourself and become legends in your own right, and also, in an interesting way, build a legacy of story as you go through the different chapters, because everything you do, all the enemies you fight, how you fight them, all affects the world around you and how people see you, how your characters develop, and how monsters and other creatures in the world interact to you as well. So for an example of that, one of the cool things they've got up in the Kickstarter is that you could go and be trying to fight the Troll King. You've been told by the Lord or a Thane of the local area to go and get rid of the Troll King and smash his goblin armies and stuff like that. You head there, and instead of fighting him, you decide to try and beat him at a battle of wits, try and make him sort of give up his the army and sort of retreat back into his halls. You might beat him, which is great, and he'll sort of go away, blah, blah, blah. You might fail in that or something like that, but the degree to which you fail or succeed determines the outcome of the scenario. So, for example, you might beat him in this battle of wits, but you might do it by only such a small margin that instead of just getting embarrassed and going away, he gets infuriated by you and starts to fight you. And so that changes how the story develops. as well as that, it's not just about defeating enemies in combat. So, say the Troll King then fights you and you have to get stuck into a big, huge brawl with him. You don't have to fight. You don't have to kill him. Sorry. You could wound him, and then he may run away to come back later in the story with a sort of personalized sort of adventure that is then tailored to you, which is all done through that legend system. Unlike other legacy games that are out there as well, which is kind of like an idea of where you're ripping up cards, you're sticking stickers down to a board, you apply things to the game and stuff, but once you're finished with your adventure and you've completed all your chapters and all of your heroes have gone to the legendary status of being heroes of Trudvang, you can then clear away all of that stuff, put it back into things, and play through an entirely new adventure and see how things turn out. So this is a really interesting sort of take on the legacy system that they're building on here. The other cool thing about this that really drew me to it is that they've transferred as much as they can from the role-playing system by Right Minds into the board game. So all your characters have a lot of depth to it and all kinds of things like that, which is really, really cool. They've got skill trees and ways they develop. So one character might be entirely different as a mage to someone else who's playing a mage. As well as that the Legends mechanic that I was talking about earlier applies to your characters themselves and how they develop through the game. The story spans multiple chapters, but your hero might achieve legendary status really, really early in the campaign, or maybe halfway through it. That means that they then leave your party and become like this deity, almost this amazing icon of virtue and power in the world, and that then affects all characters that then follow that path in the future. So, for example, if your character became like a fire mage or something like that, then everyone who then follows in her footsteps might then become part of her school of magic and like uses her fire magic in order to attack things and all kinds of things like that. So there's some really cool sort of narrative threads built in there. It's a very, very ambitious game. It seems huge, of course, because it's CMON. There are some amazing miniatures in here as well, all based on the sort of Paul Bonner artwork that is used for a lot of the covers and stuff within the Trudvang Chronicles RPG. And I'm so hesitant. I really want to dive in on this one, but I'm like, it's a lot of money, and I still have Gloomhaven that I haven't finished. So I'm like, what do I do? So yeah, I'm very, very impressed by this one.
Gloomhaven is not a good benchmark to say I'm not buying more games till I finish this.
Well, yeah, that's very true. Yes.
Yeah, that's just saying I'm never buying games again for the next 5-10 years.
Pretty much, yeah. Although I mean, there are some really nice miniatures in here. They look very, very cool. If anyone's seen the stuff that CMON have done before for things like Rising Sun and things, it's going to be that same kind of quality, and it's all based on the Paul Bonner artwork, which is just beautiful. And it's Nordic inspired as well. So every sort of scratch is being itched. And I'm like, no, what do I do? But yeah, it looks very, very cool. And it can be played solo as well, which is pretty cool.
Ooh, I like games that let you do that. I like having a solo play version so that I can actually sit down, play through, and learn the game myself before bringing it to friends.
Mm-hmm. That is nice. Yeah. I like people like you. who learn the game for me. That's amazing. May there be more like you, Justin.
But yeah, it's a really innovative and interesting looking sort of way of approaching a legacy legend style game. Really like what they've done for this. The Book of Sagas looks great, full of interesting story and narrative. So everything you do has kind of like that reaction to it, which I think is really cool. The bag building mechanic is also something that is a little bit different. Sort of encourages push your luck element to things, because when you do combat, you draw the sort of tokens, the runes from the bag, and you just have to match a certain number in order to succeed. But obviously, because of those degrees for success that I was talking about earlier, you're like, do I dive in again and try and pull out more runes, or do I risk failure by doing that as well? So it's got a really interesting sort of feel to it. So yeah,
the
really
sculpts, we've just been looking at the minis. Can we go back up there again? The sculpts are looking good too.
Oh, lovely stuff,
as you would expect from Cool Mini or not. What's the top stuff there?
The heroes.
Yeah, let's have a look at them. Ooh, real nice.
Yeah. Sorry, go.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say they're all based on the different character classes that you can play in the role-playing game as well. So Bard, Dim Walker, Ranger, Vinter, which is like the mage and stuff as well. Yeah. You've got all the different sort of classic archetypes from the role-playing game, which is pretty awesome.
Who's the guy with the massive horns? If you scroll down a bit, there's a big guy. Look at that. That's just impressive.
That's what I think.
And one of the interesting things said about this as well is that because this is a company, Right Minds, that is Scandinavian based, they love obviously their Nordic history and their folklore and their mythology and that kind of thing. So they've taken a lot of what is pure sort of Nordic mythology into this. So, for example, the dwarves that you see there, they're not the typical dwarves that you would have seen in a lot of fantasy movies and things like that. They actually have big, long, gangly arms, big noses, big barrel chests, their heads sunken in because that's how they existed as diverse back. Norse mythology and stuff. So they've really, really gone to a lot of depth with this one to bring these characters to life, and the monsters as well. So.
The monsters are looking real cool. Do you know what's good about this? And I sound like a broken record. If you got in on this, what could you do with these minis, Jerry? You know what you could do with these minis.
Age of Magic.
Age of Magic! You could totally shove them in your Age of Magic army.
Well, that's a unit of Dragor warriors right there. Look at that.
Yeah.
8. It's made for it.
Forest
and
trolls.
Then you've got 4 of the bull trolls.
Yeah. Oh yeah, bull trolls.
Yeah, I'm less worried about them.
Gorms. That's cool. I would definitely like that. I love the frost giant. Could you imagine get your Viking army out and you stick a big frost giant in the middle of it?
Yeah.
Not that I'm derailing the game itself. I'm just saying, if you did get the game, you'd have some really cool miniatures for some other stuff. Age of Magic.
And obviously, because this is a CMON Kickstarter, it means a lot of their stretch goals have already been busted through. So there's a whole bunch of new heroes. There's some additional stuff, story content and things going forward. There's a whole bunch of new monsters as well. So they've really sort of pushed the boat out this one. I think it's about $100 to get involved with this one. So it's about the price of something like Gloomhaven. So not too bad.
See, anytime CMON run a Kickstarter, they always push the boat out, and they always do well, and they always get it to people in the end for them to actually get in and play the game. I'm just happy it's not an Eric Lang designed game, or is it, Ben? Because I never win those. It is. I'm never winning this game ever. Sorry, Eric. Love your stuff, love your design, but I never win your games.
It's not that winning it counts. It's about making sure you have a mate who learns the rules first and then guides you through the game.
I don't know. Anytime I play an Eric Lang game, I seem to just get done over. I'm always the one that gets screwed in an Eric Lang game.
This sounds amazing. A game where your mate learns how to play as it and then loses miserably to you.
It's all good.
This sounds like
I didn't see any downside.
Yeah, what's the downside here, Justin?
That I lose.
You have to go back this now, just as we can all win. That'd be amazing.
Look, there's even a Justin miniature that's been unlocked in the stretch goals.
Oh yes, here you are.
I am not Catil.
Yeah,
that's
not me. My beard has never been that long.
Could be
you, and it's even got your class there as well.
Oh, you sir! That pain! That pain right in the heart. A2 Brutai.
You didn't even use the keyboard for that.
No, didn't even need to. I'll type it in later. By the time you watch this on Saturday, folks, it'll be in there as the first comment.
Damn. That's some hard Kickstarters to choose from.
I don't know. CMON's always hard to resist, but I have been loving my 3D printing stuff recently, so the question is, why not both?
The question is, why not both? Damn, I'm not even gonna come off the fence on that one. No. That's too hard. That's too difficult.
If I had the cash, I would be dropping in on both.
That's the same as being on the fence there, Justin.
Yeah. Not my problem.
Ben, do you want to get off the fence, or are you going to stay on the fence?
I think if I was going to pledge for anything, it would be Trudvang. I love the role-playing game. It looks absolutely fantastic. I've read quite a lot of it over the last couple of days, just been delving into it, and this seems like a really cool board game version of that role-playing game. So
you should totally do that, Ben. You should totally do that, because I would love that. Because then you could come over and teach us all how to play and lose the game. And then when you would take the thick losing the game, I'd say, do you know all them miniatures you have, Ben? Do you know what they'd be really good for? Age of Magic! It's a win all
really
around.
Is. There are no downsides to this in any way, shape, or form.
See, I have to wonder why these companies don't, just for you, Lloyd, do a miniatures-only pledge.
Miniatures-only pledge. The miniatures-only pledge would be kind of cool. There's bound to be loads of people out there who would just suck up the miniatures. From that one. From that one.
Yeah, although I suppose it would make things a bit more complicated for them.
Definitely would make things a hell of a lot more complicated.
Because then they're going, okay, miniature set, board game. Why do we have like 130 board games left over with no miniatures?
No!
Because bad planning, I imagine, if they've got a list of who wants
Someone
what.
Who can't count.
Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Keep it simple, keep it stupid.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Always throw the cardboard away.
Is that not how that saying goes? Am I being stupid?
No, keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple.
Not keep it stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, okay. I like mine better. Speaking of things that people want.
Yeah.
Let's throw
nice segue.
Let's throw a reminder out there. Remember that if you comment in this video, you have the chance to win a £20 voucher for the OTT store if you can come up with a really cool name for a building.
Yeah.
And some background for that building.
Yeah.
And you have the chance to win a £50 voucher for the OTT store if you can come up with a really cool name for the city and some really cool backgrounds.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah, I've already been ruled out from Funky Town. So,
really?
Yeah, can't be that.
Oh.
So.
Building McBuildface.
Building McBuildface is good.
That old one, no good.
What's wrong with that? It's a classic.
Shard 2.
Shard 2.
The Quickening.
The Quickening.
All right, you do realise because we work here, we can't win. Stop.
That doesn't mean we can't have a go.
Blue sky thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
All the fun is in taking part, especially if you've a mate who's learned the rules.
Yes, it's very true.
That's the best. Right, and we also have the mashed kit up for grabs.
If you want to try and lay your hands on the not the 4077th.
Yeah. How do you win that one?
It was just comment in there about the Korean War stuff. So whatever Charlie said, I believe he said just comment below.
Yeah.
I don't think we went any more detailed than that.
Yeah.
What's your favourite MASH unit?
Why wouldn't you want it?
Yeah. The other
and if you don't think you're going to win it, you remember you can order it on the OTT store.
Yeah. The other thing to remind everybody is we have some prizes to announce this week.
Yes.
So if you want to find out if you're a winner, come across to OnTableTop.com. There is a drop down where the prize claim center is. Scroll down. If you see your name there, fill in the form. And you could, you can claim your prize.
They're cool prizes because we're giving away 2 Bold Action Korea books.
Yeah.
So those winners have been picked.
Yep.
And we've got Mighty Lords All-In Pledge.
Ooh, I didn't know about that one.
The Mighty Lords All-In Pledge, that sounds like a big one to me.
Yeah.
That's from the guys at Room 17 who did their Kickstarter.
I see.
Oh, sweet.
Awesome.
Right. We have another jam-packed show coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
If you haven't joined the Cult of Games, come on over to OnTableTop. Join the Cult of Games / well, it's not / backstage at this point, if you don't know what I'm talking about. We're doing a bit of name jigging there.
Yes.
But we'd love you to come over and be a cultist with us.
Yes.
Yeah, and join us for our Sunday show. And we'll see you then!
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.